Hey, y'all, it is Rick and Sasha with George Wilborn. We've been hearing all this talk about defund the police. Nancy Pelosi's been talking about it. She wants to. President Trump doesn't want to. People on different sides of the fence. But the first question is, what the hell does it all mean, y'all?
Well, what it means is let us, the resources that we have, let us spend it in a way that gives the most protection to the American people, protection for their safety, protection for their rights. Funding of police is a local matter, as you know. From the standpoint of our legislation, we're not going to that place. What we're doing is talking about how we change policy to make our policing more just and that. There's some issues that we ask police to do, like mental health issues or policing in schools and all the rest, that perhaps we can shuffle some of that money around. But those are local decisions. We take an oath to protect and defend the American people. Their safety is our top priority. And so, again, respectful of those in law enforcement who take pride in their work, disrespectful of those who do not. We want to work together as to how we go forward.
Warren Ballentine, the truth fighter, break it down to us, man.
Let me break this down for you in street terms.
Let's go.
Nice, thank you.
Defunding the police department is simple.
Okay.
It's already happened in 2000 in Compton. It's already happened in Newark in 2013. In fact, when Eric Holder went to Ferguson to look at what was going on with Mike Brown, that's what they were going to do. They were going to defund the police department. Now, what does that mean? That means they're going to take that money and use it for something else. And now the county sheriffs become the police over that city. So if you live in a city like Chicago, the Cook County Sheriff's Department would now be the police. And so the money that they were spending for the Chicago Police Department could be used for jobs, education, employment. So when you're hearing this defunding thing, people keep thinking about this, oh, we're not going to have the police. No, we are going to have the police. In Compton, they defunded that program in 2000. The Los Angeles County Police are now the police for Compton. This is the same thing that everybody's talking about, everybody can do. And to be honest with you, you know, I'm glad they're having this conversation. And the reason we need this conversation is because we keep talking about, well, we want something to change. We're marching, we're praying, we're fighting.
And that's all good. But we as a people, what do we really need to do? 10 after the hour, Warren, I want you to break it down. We got the truth fighter, Warren Ballentine, as Rick and Sasha with George Wilborn. It's Rick and Sasha with George Wilborn. We're talking to the truth fighter, Warren Ballentine, and we're talking about defunding the police and how we need to bring about change as a people.
That's good. Everybody's saying words. That's good. But we got to change the laws. And see, the best way I can say this is this. If you think about Black people in America, we've been on a sliding scale like this, right?
Right.
We came here as slaves. Then we got emancipated and got Reconstruction. Then we got Jim Crow. They slid us back because they put Jim Crow in front of us. Then we go to civil rights and we're fighting for civil rights. What do? They kill not just King and Malcolm X, but Kennedy and anybody else who was fighting for Black people. We slid back. Then they give us affirmative action, even though the number one beneficiary of affirmative action was white women, not us. But that's a whole nother conversation. Then we move back from affirmative action because now they create with welfare. When we start wanting to get welfare and food stamps, they say, well, the Black man can't be in the house if you getting this. So now you're literally removing the father figure from the home. So we move back again.
Right.
Then we move forward again because they create the GI Bill. Many of us sign up, we become Army reservists and everything else
to home, get an education. Get the houses. Yeah.
Right. That's right. Get houses, everything else, George. That's right. You know. We move back because they put crack in our community. So every time that we didn't move forward, they didn't move our ass back. And so what happens is this, we get appeased at what they're saying instead of changing the laws. And that's the key. Thurgood Marshall and them, I tell people this all the time. The civil rights movement was great because of the laws that were changed. What happened in the Civil War, that was great because of the laws that was changed. And everybody talks about Lincoln and the Emancipation Proclamation, and everybody highlights Lee in the South. Grant was the man. If you go know your history, General Grant, who became President Grant, is the reason that the Emancipation Proclamation even happened, because he literally freed his slaves and then got black people to fight against white people in the Civil War. So we've been doing this all along. And so when I look at what's going on today, it's only three things that need to happen. If we do these three things, it will change Black America forever.
All right, Warren, you know I'm going to ask you to hold on, man. We're going to be back 25 after the hour. Stick around. We got the truth fighter, Warren Ballentine. It's Rick and Sasha with George Wilborn. It's Rick and Sasha with George Wilborn. We're inside the party poll at 888-909-1514. We're talking to the truth fighter, Warren Ballentine. We're talking about the plight of the African to America. And now we're here. We need to change some things so that we can move forward and get ahead.
When I look at what's going on today, it's only three things that need to happen. If we do these three things, it will change Black America forever. Number one, we have to look at this from a different lens.
What lens is that?
Slavery. Only 14% of all white people own slaves. 86% of the country were not slave owners. But the 86% who weren't slave owners got a de facto benefit from slavery because they didn't have to compete with us for land, for education, for jobs, for anything. They didn't have no competition against anybody. Well, if you look at the legal system today, it's the exact same way. If Pookie gets a drug case at 19 and gets convicted or takes the deal because he gets pulled over in his car and they give him 10 charges and tell him you're looking at 10 years or probation a day, he's going to take probation a day. Now he has a record. So when Pookie turns 30 and now he's married, he has some kids and he wants to do the right thing, Pookie can't compete. He can't get a job.
Well, if Pookie uses government name, maybe to help him out a little bit. I'm just saying.
Yeah. He's Antoine by the end. He's not Pookie. He's Antoine by the end. He's Antoine by the end.
It's part of the reason why he got held back as well. I just want to say.
But Antoine by the end, Antoine, has now tried to get a job and do things the right way. He can't. So what does he do? He goes back to the streets. So give us the opportunity to compete. What does that mean? If somebody has not been convicted of a nonviolent offense, meaning they didn't kill anybody, they didn't harm anybody, they didn't sexually abuse anybody, the question on all these applications, have you ever been convicted of anything in your life, should be removed. You should not have to answer that question, and you should not have to have a background check. Now, if you've been convicted of sexual assault, of killing somebody or something else, that's completely different.
Right.
But give these people a chance to compete, because if you give us a chance to compete, our history tells you, shows you, whether you're talking about sports, whether you're talking about education. See, the thing about Black people that we don't realize, it's in our blood to be great. Brother,
all of this. We got the truth fighter, Warren Ballentine, just inspiring our people, man. That's what we want to hear. But we can hear from you, 888-909-1514. We got more Warren coming up. It's Rick and Sasha with George Wilborn. It's Rick and Sasha with George Wilborn, and we're talking to the truth fighter, Warren Ballentine. And you know what? We just need to uplift our people because we've been through a lot in life. In the last 2 weeks, it's been a lot. It's just been a lot. In the last few months, actually. Warren, talk to us, man.
Think about what our ancestors survived in the hulls of the ships coming over here for slavery. Think about what our ancestors survived when they were killed for learning to read, and they still rose up. They still got emancipated. They still had Reconstruction. They still had civil rights. They still had Barack Obama. All that happened because it's in our blood. It's who we are. It's our DNA. And for every Black man out there, let me tell you something that you should never forget. We come from the greatest thing God ever created on this earth, a Black woman. She created civilization. And if we don't respect that, if we don't understand that, nobody else will.
That's
so
true.
It's already in us to be great.
All right, give us the other two.
The second thing is this. What'd you say, brother?
Give us the other two. And then, Mr. Warren, I have a question after that, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I've been trying to get in, but go ahead.
The second thing is this. We got to have an honest conversation. We can't sugarcoat this no more with our white friends. We have to be honest with them, because look, white people, we literally built this country, and we didn't just build it. We literally took care of your kids. We cooked for your ancestors. Our Black women would suckle the white kids before they would suckle their own kids. This is what we did. And see,
which is explained why a lot of Black women have a problem that they do later on in life, you know, and they with the gravity, but nevertheless.
That's with the gravity. That's right.
I'm not laughing right now. But
They're pulling them down. They're pulling them down. And see, we don't understand the history. See, I'm gonna give you three quick things that everybody should know. Barrel of monkeys. Where did that come from? A barrel of monkeys. That's because they had barrels on the streets of all major cities. And if you were a Black person and you get caught laughing in public, you could go to jail. So you had to stick your head in the barrel to laugh. That's where the barrel of monkeys come from. Hush puppies. Where did that come from? Because literally the big house was here. Then you had dogs here. And then you had the kitchen here where the Black slaves were cooking. And the masters, when they had big dinners, they didn't want the dogs barking. So if the dogs was barking, the slaves were beat. The women were beat. So what did they do? They created hush puppies and they threw them at the dogs saying hush puppies so y'all can stop. And then picnic. Everybody should know the term picnic.
Absolutely.
Ooh, I don't go to picnics.
Pick a nigger up. And I'm saying it nice like that.
Yep.
On Sundays, they shut down. They went to the center of the city and they went and picked their Negro. That's what they did. So that's the second thing. And lastly, this is the other thing that we have to do if we don't do nothing else. We have to come together. We have to vote people in who really want change. And we have to realize all the people who want to give money, if you want to give money to the NAACP, NAN, Operation Push, that's all wonderful, great. But we need jobs. We need jobs. And I'm sorry, the Black organizations aren't creating jobs. Now, I support them. I believe in them. They who we are. But if they're not creating jobs for us, that's not giving us economic power. If we don't have economic power, then we have no way to compete. If we have jobs, if we have money, then when we get in this legal system, we can compete. Right now, we don't have no way to compete. And that's all that we need is a way to compete.
Mr. Warren, I have a question, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can we go back to the defunding of the police department?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Will that happen on the federal level or is that local? Because what'll end up happening that you'll have different states or cities doing what they want to do. How does that process work? And do we vote that in?
It's not something that we vote in. It's a state decision.
So it's a state decision.
And it's a local decision. This is why Compton in California was able to do it, but the city of Los Angeles didn't do it. So
and what happens to those local police officers? Are they fired, and can they rejoin the county police?
Yeah, they can rejoin the county police, but the hope of defunding a police department is to reorganize everything to make cops have a different standard. That's the purpose of doing that. Is to say, look, we're going to retrain you. We're going to get you to think differently. We want you to be, one of the big things that I've always argued, and Sasha, you didn't grow up in Chicago, but George and Rick and I all grew up in Chicago. One of the big things that happened growing up when we were growing up, our teachers lived in our neighborhoods. Our cops lived in our neighborhoods.
Absolutely.
So they knew who we were. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot harder to kill somebody you know.
Right.
Because, if the cops live in these neighborhoods that they're policing, it's a lot harder to face that mama in the grocery store 3 months after you done shot her baby boy. Right. So we need to have it where these cops live where they work.
Mr. Warren, I have a question.
You better stop calling me Mr. Warren.
Oh my God.
So yesterday, they had so many problems with voting.
Right.
With the new systems that they had in place, the employees that are working there, they didn't know how to work, people standing in line for hours and hours. And again, every election is important. How do we stop this craziness? And a lot of people did not get to vote.
Good one. Voter suppression. Hey, Warren, I want you to answer that when we come back, man. It's Rick and Sasha with George Wilborn. Rick and Sasha with George Wilborn. We're talking to the truth fighter, Warren Ballentine. Y'all know voter suppression is all over the place. It's just craziness. Sending people here, there. It's just all messed up right now. But we're not giving up. We still gonna make sure our voice is heard through that vote.
They had so many problems with voting.
Right.
With the new systems that they had in place, the employees that are working there, they didn't know how to work, people standing in line for hours and hours. And again, every election is important. How do we stop this craziness? And a lot of people did not get to vote.
Well, I think it's a number of ways. I think number one, you got to have some kind of ballot voting. It's no way around it because we don't have a cure for COVID virus. I mean, for some reason in America, we just acting like we don't even have COVID anymore.
Right.
Hey, it's summertime. Let's kick it. That's the way we acting right now. And so literally, you got to have some kind of ballot voting. Secondly, you got to understand you're not going to have many people sitting there working who normally will work as election officials because they don't want to be there because of the COVID virus.
Right.
And most of the people who work in those positions are elderly people. Mm-hmm. They're not young people. They're elderly people. The third thing is this: if we had early voting and more voting spaces, because what's happened, the Republicans have conduced the voting ballots and the voting places around the country where you only may have one place that's servicing maybe 100,000 people.
But why? That doesn't even make sense.
Well, it's like that because they don't want our vote to count. This goes back to competing, what I was talking about earlier. But the biggest change we can make is that we got to look at this from a competition point of view. We need to be able to compete. If you give us the right to compete, and see, Black people, let me say this, and please hear me. This is the most important thing I'm gonna say. Stop screaming for equality. You don't need equality. You need equity. Now let me explain the difference for you. I'm 6'1". I'm 6'1". If I'm trying to look over a fence that's 6'3", I need 3 inches and I can see over that fence. If you are 5'7" and they give you the same 3 inches, you still can't see over that fence. But you know what they can say to you? We gave you equality. We gave you 3 inches, just like he got 3 inches. You don't need 3 inches. You need equity. You need what's going to make you be able to see over the fence too. Stop yelling for equality. We don't need no damn equality. We need equity.
That's the truth, fighter, y'all. Warren Ballentine, love you, bro.
Hey, I love you guys, man. Thank you guys so much.